So in the getting started video, we talked about the principles for success: consistency, technique, and then easing into the program. With this video, I just want to touch on a few tips for success that I think will be helpful, in particular as you begin the program. So first I want to talk about warm-ups and cool-downs. The BTN program doesn't have a specific warm-up that goes with each of the videos. So you're kind of looking to do warm-ups on your own. And that's good because everyone tends to warm up in a different way, suiting their own needs. For me, as an example, I tend to not do much warming up at all, maybe 2 or 3 minutes before I jump into that first round. And I just typically do just some body stretches, really low, stretching my lower back, maybe doing some light body squats real quick and jumping jacks, just to get some blood flowing and stretch out some of those muscles first thing in the morning. But again, everyone's going to be different when it comes to their warm up. Maybe you want to do a little jump rope. Maybe you want to do more 10-15 minute stretching exercise. Maybe you want to jump on a stationary bike or go for a 10 or 15 minute jog before you jump into that first round. Do what works for you, and that's what's going to ultimately be most effective. So the same concept applies for cool downs as well. There's no set cool down process with the BTN program, so do whatever fits your needs or your schedule. I tend to just lie on the mat after 3 or 4 rounds and just do some light stretching before I start the day. But again, just do whatever suits your needs and suits your schedule. So there are a couple of strategies that I want to talk about that will really be helpful as you work on your technique to make sure you're doing the exercises correctly. The first is going to be just using the appropriate amount of weight for the exercise. You don't want to go too heavy on things if you don't have the technique down. So lower the weight or do no weight until you get the movement down to make sure that you're doing it correctly so you don't hurt yourself, and to make sure that you're getting the effective benefits of that particular exercise by doing it the right way. So think about using lower weight or no weight before you really start adding heavier weight to some of these exercises. And that's really going to be helpful for exercises like the clean or the windmill press or the Turkish press, things that are just slightly more complicated or something that you might not be familiar with. So just use lower weight or no weight until you have the technique down. So another great strategy to improve your technique is to slow down the speed in which you're doing a particular exercise. And this is really key for new exercises that you're learning for the first time, or maybe you're a little bit rusty on. And so I recommend really doing some of these movements in half speed and then working your way up to 2/3 speed before you get to full speed. And that's going to allow you to take the time necessary to make sure you're doing it right. No reason to rush. So lastly, I just want to mention and remind you that we do have a movements and modifications page that's going to really help you be successful in the program. That page has tutorial videos on all of the 75 plus exercises and movements that we do throughout the 10-day program. Each of those videos is going to take you step by step and how to do the proper technique for each of those exercises. In addition to that, it's also going to have modifications, which are changes to the original movement that just make it a little bit easier, particularly for those just starting out or just getting back into their fitness program. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about pacing and breathing. Pacing in particular is going to be really important as you work through the BTN program. And that's because BTN at its core is a interval-based program. It's a time-based program, meaning there's multiple rounds. And so if you're exerting all of your energy in that first round, then you're not going to have anything left in the tank for rounds 3 and 4 if you decide you want to go that far. Now, if you're only doing 1 round or 2 rounds, by all means, go 110% to get through it. That way you're maximizing the 8 minutes or the 17 minutes that you're going through the program for those 2 rounds. But if you're looking to do 3 or 4, you want to make sure you're just controlling your pacing. You're not exerting all. So as you're going through that first round, just kind of track what your pace looks like, because you don't want to exert all that energy in that first round, because if in the later rounds, if you're continuing on, what's going to happen is you're going to be so tired and so defeated that your technique is going to suffer, which, as we've talked about before, could result in injury, or at a minimum, just not doing the exercises correctly, which means you're not going to get the full benefits from the program. So keep your pacing in mind as you're working through each individual round. So when it comes to the proper breathing technique, most people are going to do ultimately what they're comfortable with, and that's what you should do. But there is a general guideline, particularly with breathing, with respect to weight-based programs or total body movement programs like BTN, and that's to make sure that you are exhaling on the muscle contraction. So, for example, if you're doing a press, then you are exhaling, blowing out on the press. If you're doing a pull motion, you're exhaling on the pull and then inhaling when you drop back down. So that's the general guideline, but ultimately you want to do what you're most comfortable with to work out when the best time to exhale, when the best time to inhale is. Just make sure you're breathing, because that's going to be key to life. So the next tip for success is just to make sure that you're being active for the full 30-second work period. I don't care if you're doing 2 reps or 20 reps. The idea is to be moving for the full 30-second period. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't maybe take a quick break, shake the legs out, but get right back into it. Or you might just have to do a modification so that you can work through the whole 30 seconds. For example, if you're doing push-ups and you just can't do any more push-ups, transition to a high plank and hold that for the remainder of the time. The key is to just make sure that you are doing something for the full 30 seconds, because that way you're going to find the most success in the program to help you build that stamina, keep that heart rate up so that you're in that fat burning zone, that calorie burning zone that's going to allow you to develop that lean muscle. All right, so my last recommendation, and then I promise I'll shut up, is to try to find a set time each day in which you can do your workouts. Again, this isn't going to work for everybody. Everyone's schedule is going to be different. In fact, the BTN program is designed for flexibility to allow you to squeeze your workouts in between Zoom calls and picking up kids and coaching and everything else you have going on in your life. But I personally have found the most success when I pick a time and I stick to it throughout the week. That allows me to have consistency, which is really a core principle of the BTN program. So